So there you have it. The second official college football playoff rankings ours to have, hold, and react to. Appreciate you being a part of this. The committee, I think, was fairly consistent in how they went about putting these rankings together. Got a lot of thoughts to unpack with these rankings. The top 5 looks pretty locked. I don't know what 10-2 gets you over the course of this whole college football playoff conversation we're moving forward with here. We'll unpack all of it right now. Before we do that, though, y'all know what I'm going to say. Make sure you subscribe right here to the On3 YouTube channel. We're in here as the rankings just dropped. We're reacting to them in real time. For us, because we're sickos about this, and for y'all. So make sure you're dialed in. Make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Appreciate y'all in advance for doing that. Okay, so where I want to start with these rankings is number 18, because that's where the 10-2 logjam kind of gets interesting. Michigan's at 18, USC's at 17, Georgia Tech at 16, Miami hanging out at 15. Interesting. We'll talk about that in a second. Vandy at 14, Utah at 13, BYU at 12. Now, Michigan at 18 is really interesting because if Michigan wins out, one, they have a chance to get some help and find themselves in that Big Ten title game. That's the first part of this. But let's just say Michigan doesn't get some help and gets to the Big Ten title game. Let's just say that things break a certain way where, I don't know, Michigan's there where they beat Ohio State. They're 10-2. And it's like, hang on a second. Michigan at 10-2 with a win over Ohio State, should they find themselves in that same position again? I don't know how you would leave them out. Now, I say that. Then I look at USC at 17. And if USC wins out, that means they'll have a win over a ranked Iowa team, who is 21 in tonight's rankings, a win over Oregon, who is top 10 yet again in tonight's rankings, and they also hold the head-to-head over Michigan. So you see where I'm going with this thing. I don't know how Michigan in any way, shape, or form would get left out of the college football playoff at 10-2 with the win over the number 1 ranked team in America, but USC holding that head-to-head, do they just get swept up in that as well with a couple of ranked wins on the way? That to me is really, really interesting. Georgia Tech at 16. Miami at 15, I kind of grouped them together in some respects. The ACC is going to be a one-bid league, or so we think. Miami being at 15, again, remember, one spot will be designated more than likely to the ACC. Now, it's not officially the verbiage, but 5 highest-ranked conference champions. One of those conference champions, we are assuming, as it stands right now, is going to be from the ACC. So the leader in the clubhouse right now, from a rankings perspective in the ACC, the placeholder is Miami. Now, Miami does not control their own destiny in the ACC title race. So we keep saying the ACC is going to be a one-bid league, but Miami kind of has this gift of Notre Dame's playing Pitt. So if Pitt beats Notre Dame, that's a horrible whistle. You hear what I'm saying? Notre Dame drops out of the college football playoff at 9-3. They're not getting in. And then Pitt, who was ranked in the top 25 tonight, they get boosted up. Guess what? Miami plays Pitt in a couple of weeks here. If Miami beats Pitt handily and Pitt has a Notre Dame win to their name, how much does that boost Miami's at-large prospects? It would shock me if Miami found their way into the dance at 10-2, but I'm just saying there is a path there. Again, with the 10-2 stuff, Vandy at 14, if they go 10-2, they probably need a Texas to lose or an Oklahoma to lose. BYU at 12. Now, if BYU gets into the Big 12 title game and they find their way into the Big 12 title game with only one loss, my gut, again, just purely going off field here, my gut is BYU would find their way into the college football playoff, whether it's as a conference champ or as an at-large bid. That's just kind of how I'm feeling about this as it stands right now. So the 18 through 12 range is curious, but we get into the actual playoff bracket right now, and the team seeded 12th, ranked 24th, is USF. This doesn't need a whole lot of explaining. USF is in this position where they have a win to their name over Florida, and just food for thought now, the way the bracket stands right now, it's going to change obviously, but the way it stands right now, USF would play number 5 Georgia in that first round. Now, USF only beat Florida by 2 less points than Georgia did. So if you're going to go off common opponent, I think the Dogs win that game, but I'm just saying keep an eye on that matchup. That'd be a lot of fun. But USF, currently the G5 rep. I wonder where JMU ends up when this whole thing is said and done. No other analysis, just keep an eye on JMU. The number 11 ranked team was Oklahoma. However, again, the ACC will have a representative as it stands right now. That's Miami. At number 10, you got Texas. Now, I think both Texas and Oklahoma are in an intriguing spot. They are both scaling this wall of the college football playoff. They're looking up. If they win out, you got to feel pretty decent if you go 10-2 in your OU or you're 10-2 in Texas about finding your way into the dance. However, if you lose one game, I think you plummet back down to earth. So it is either get to the top of the mountain at 10-2 or lose a game and you're off the rock. Now, Oklahoma, they will have a massive game this weekend against Alabama at Alabama, which will obviously impact their college football playoff prospects and resume. Same deal with Texas. If you go to Georgia and beat Georgia, you're setting yourself up with a spot to go play A&M the final weekend of the regular season at home. Maybe you got a little bit extra juice, a little momentum, hot at the right time. I don't know. But I'll just say this. Texas, if they go 10-2 and they make the SEC championship game, they will be a lot higher than 10 in those rankings on Selection Sunday. Whether they win the conference or not, a 10-2 Texas would have a pretty difficult resume to argue with as it stands when all the dust settles. Now, at number 9, you got Notre Dame. I understand Notre Dame was kind of a friction point for a lot of people last week because they're like, well, who have they beaten? Well, Notre Dame, what's their best win on their resume? Their best win's USC? Okay, you're going to put them in the top 10? I hear where you're coming from. I'll go back to what I said over the course of this entire last week. I think the committee is saying, hey, Notre Dame, we see you. We see the brand of football you're playing. We trust what you're doing. We have a low level of questions for Notre Dame relative to the teams behind them. Sure, you lost to Miami. Not great. Sure, you lost to A&M. Never good to lose. However, the way you looked in those losses, wasn't like you just got blown out. Never questioned who your quarterback was or questioned your overall holes in your roster, whereas we were having those discussions around Oklahoma and around Texas over the course of the season. So the wins aren't as good, but the committee is watching games. It's a beautiful thing. The committee is watching college football games, and they're seeing Notre Dame doing good things, doing things that good football teams do, and they're in a pretty ideal spot right now as Notre Dame with the chance to play Pitt at Pitt, who's going to be a ranked opponent, and maybe earn some style points. I said last week that I think Notre Dame has got to get some style points the rest of the way to feel good about their chances to make the college football playoff. I'm going to go ahead and stand by that statement this weekend, but seeing them at 9, they got a little bit of cushion between them and that 11 spot. I don't know. Keep an eye on Notre Dame. Not a lot of meat on the bone after they play Pitt with Syracuse and Stanford, unfortunately. But you keep handling business, Notre Dame. You keep passing that eye test rather comfortably, you're going to be in the college football playoff. Now, Oregon at 8. I wasn't sure what the committee would do with Oregon. And again, in those first rankings, I was a little bit taken back. They put him at 9 because the win over Penn State I thought had much more value than the committee assigned to it. And I thought that the loss to Indiana, with how close that game was in the second half, maybe deserved a little bit more attention. But I think Oregon has a real chance to boom in these rankings because they're going to play number 17 USC here before this whole thing wraps up. So you're hoping and praying if you're Oregon that USC keeps winning and maybe, just maybe, Oregon has a chance to jump Ole Miss because Ole Miss plays Florida and Mississippi State, the final 2 games of the regular season for the folks out in Oxford. But I don't see a world where Oregon, outside of somebody ahead of them losing, jumps past Ole Miss at number 7. Right now, Ole Miss at number 7, I'm cool with it. Them being jumped by Texas Tech at number 6, I think this was the right move. Because Texas Tech, if you're not going to jump Ole Miss in a week where you absolutely take belt to cheeks against a top 10 team in BYU, never was a game. Really never was a game. We're going to be honest about this whole thing. If you can't jump Ole Miss in a game like that with a win like that, you were never going to jump them until the conference title game, is how I'm looking at this thing. So I think that was the right move. Neither Texas Tech or Ole Miss have too much left in the regular season. I told you what Ole Miss has got. Texas Tech plays UCF in West Virginia, so walk the tightrope there, Ole Miss and Texas Tech, and I think that's how it's going to finish out. Now, the top 5 to me, as I mentioned at the opening here, I think that's pretty locked, y'all. Barring something where one of these teams lose, I don't know how you shake this up. Because if you're going to put A&M ahead of Indiana, you would have done that this week, where A&M boat races Mizzou and Indiana gets a close win over Penn State. Cool, maybe you say, hey, A&M, we like the eye test. We'll go ahead and put you over Indiana this week. But if you're not doing that this week, I don't know what week you're doing it. Maybe you do it if A&M beats Texas handily and you feel good about that, because at that point, Indiana's boasting a win over Purdue the final week of the regular season. But even if you do that, I don't really care that much because you're probably both playing in conference title games the next weekend, and that'll decide the seeding in general. So 2 and 3 was the spot I was watching most closely. Obviously, Bama having to head over Georgia has Bama at 4 and Georgia at 5. Indiana at 2, I'm good with it. Ohio State at 1, they've looked like the best team in college football. I am all the way here for them being the number 1 team in America as it stands per these rankings. But my biggest takeaway from this, as I just said, 1 through 5 feels locked to me. Texas Tech moving up to 6 was the right move. We predicted the committee would do this on Monday, so another reason to be subscribed and to be watching this show. The 10-2 logjam, again, is going to be very, very interesting. What do you do with Miami if they're 10-2? Because the committee is saying right now, hey, Miami, you go finish the regular season with a bang, and maybe, just maybe, we're side-eyeing you and saying you could find an at-large spot in the college football playoff. Miami not controlling their own destiny when it comes to the conference, so they're not getting that auto bid. But there's just a lot of moving pieces here. And again, 18-17 with Michigan and USC and how they could potentially eat up some spots with what they have the rest of the way is just fascinating. So again, I don't know if 10-2 gets you into the college football playoff this year like it was last year. It was kind of a fast pass of sorts. If you're a Big Ten or an SEC team, you go 10-2, boom, you're in. I don't think it's quite that cut and dry this year. But these rankings, again, pretty consistent. I appreciate the committee watching games. Them moving Texas Tech up, I think, is a testament to that. But we'll keep a pulse on this, man. Really quickly, looking at these potential first-round matchups we have, Oregon and Notre Dame would be phenomenal. A couple of psychopathic head coaches facing off in Autzen. Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning. The promos leading into that game would be awesome. The promos after that game would be absolutely cinematic. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Texas Tech and Miami, if we got that round one in Lubbock, everyone talks about NIL this, NIL that for both schools. It would be a really good test of who's handled the NIL era the best, not just from building a roster, but building your culture. Does Miami have the cultural resilience to go into Lubbock and get a win? I'd be here to see that. Ole Miss and Texas. Hey, I don't know if y'all were clocking the news this week, but Lane Kiffin said something to the effect of dynasties in college football are dead. Steve Sarkisian was asked about it, and he's referring to Lane Kiffin, says he says a lot. Well, I think that Lane Kiffin and Sark are actually boys from their time on staff at USC, but get to settle on the field a little bit. I'd be here for that offensive matchup. I'd be all the way about that. And then the teams with the byes with Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, I think that's the right four as it stands right now. So a lot of thoughts there. We're still kind of working this whole thing out in real time. This is a reaction. The rankings dropped literally like 15 minutes ago, so we'll have more thoughts on the show throughout the course of this week. But there it is, our raw, emotional, I'd like to think someone insightful and logical reaction for all of us to unpack together. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Did the committee get it right? I understand we can't please everybody. Whenever you do a rankings, it's going to make somebody upset. So let me know your grievances in the comment section below. And make sure you subscribe because, again, we're doing these as long as they're doing these when it comes to the rankings and our reactions to them. For Cato on the ones and the twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.